I'm sitting here with Max Sefton, the current president of the Queen Margaret Union. Now, can you tell me, are there any projects that you've started and been unable to complete that you would like to see the next president and executive continue?
For a start, there's a massive issue around signage and wayfinding through the building. I think we have a lot of services in there that the large amount of the student body just aren't aware of. That's going to be a project that needs to be fully realised. Hopefully we'll make a start of it before the end of my term, but that's something that needs to be carried on. I think there are a lot of ideas that have been thrown around this year that people can move forward with. For example, we've been talking about doing events around computer gaming, events around sort of apps and tech, and a massive effort on life membership, which we've made the first steps forward in that in about a decade, in terms of getting all the information in one place, in terms of getting support from the university for that. Now, next year, hopefully the on-second president will be able to run with that and run some really interesting events where we can bring back great people from the QM's history to talk to current students and offer something to that new generation of people coming through the QMU. Brilliant.
What do you believe is the current reputation of the QMU? Do you believe it's suffered from an identity crisis, as some candidates have mentioned?
I think over the last couple of years there's definitely been an attempt to make the QMU somewhere that's broadly acceptable to a wide number of people, and perhaps that's diluted part of a unique identity it maybe had at one point in the past. For example, I was looking through old board pictures of all the board members on Socialist Worker Party marches and things in the past. Now, the political element is more towards sort of social causes. For example, the board members went along to the protests against the anti-abortion protesters. So maybe it's less explicitly political at the sort of headline level. I think a student union is never going to be just for, or should never be for just one clique, and I'd like it to still remain an open organisation for as many people as possible. But if somebody has a clear and compelling vision who's coming along to be elected this year that they can get a wide range of students on campus on board with, I don't really have any problem with that.
Okay. And what about the reputation? Do you think the QMU has a good reputation right now, or something that its reputation on campus needs to be improved?
I feel like there are a large number of members of the student community who value what the QMU provides. So I'm not sure where to go on that one.
That's fine. What do you think is something that's difficult about being the president of the QMU that some candidates may not have realised?
One of the first things I realised when I got involved as president was that you actually have, due to the way the powers are dispersed across the other members of the board, you actually have less influence over the student experience side than you might think. You have other people who have their own projects they want to be working on, and while you can sort of motivate and provide support, you don't dictate generally the policy in those areas. The counterpart to that was I found that I've had more influence over the commercial aspects of the union than I thought I would, and I play a greater involvement in that than I anticipated when I ran for the position. But I found that fascinating, and I've really enjoyed my involvement in both sides of that.
Do you believe that future candidates should be prepared more for that kind of commercial role?
I took all three candidates aside and went to speak with them about, well, all aspects of running of the union, but I specifically focused on some of the things that they might not know and that I've learnt over my year, particularly how you'll interact with the university and with the sort of senior managers within the organisation, which I think perhaps some people running for board don't realise that the president has quite so much influence over. And I hope that they all picked up on that and they all used the chance to ask some useful questions. And I think you're seeing that in some of the manifestos that have come out so far.
Brilliant. So under your watch, Magic, the weekly club night, ended. Do you feel responsible for this?
Ultimately, I'm the one at the top of the organisation who has to make the final decision on that. Since the weekly club night ended, we've had we've had more bookings this year from student societies than any year in the past in the QMU. I would have said we're engaging and serving more students on campus and more of their projects than we ever have been doing before, and presented with the information I was given, it was the correct decision and one that I stand by. I think the QMU can do a lot more exciting projects, and a lot more of those can be sort of diverse student-led ones. A good example of that have been, we've had things like the Secret Policeman's Ball on, and we can always do one-off club nights, or we can do monthly ones, or we can use other spaces in the building more creatively. And I think there's been some really positive steps taken by the people who are running for events and president next year to outline how they might do that. I think the QMU should be somewhere that tries to offer something for everybody, but that particular one wasn't working as a weekly night.
So why do you think a club night like Magic failed when a club night like what the Hive is doing at the moment is actually quite successful?
Well, I would have said with the Hive, you've got a purpose-built nightclub with a cost of £3.5 million delivered by the university. That was always going to present a significant challenger to what the QMU could offer, which is why we've sort of moved towards the things that we can specialise in more effectively. We've been doing more live music this year, we've been doing more with sort of theatre groups and that kind of thing. But we were always aware that that was going to happen when the Hive came back, and I think there was a broad acceptance of that across not just the student unions but across the university community. We have run some nights this year where we've had 1,000 people in on a club night, and those have been very successful, and we've also had groups come in like Rap and Hip Hop Society who've done really fun, exciting things, and I think there's an opportunity for those people to really make a home for themselves at the QMU as well.
Great. Do you believe the committee and the CSRs actually have the ability to change the union?
Yeah, absolutely. When you get elected, you come with a specific set of promises. I sat down with every CSR to discuss the next steps they could take to change it. I feel like on almost every decision as to how the union was run, they have an opportunity for input into those decisions.
But do they have the explicit powers to get their projects, or the projects they've come along, or the ideas that they've come along with, to implement them?
I can't think of any examples that have been completely quashed. Occasionally people, like for example, if someone gets elected saying, we're going to make every pint of tenants £1, there comes a point where you have to introduce them to financial reality of running a £1-2 million institution. But I would have said that if there are projects that are ever not able to proceed as people would like, I always try and find a workaround in order to sort of take it forward, or take forward the aspects that are practical. And I would like to think most people got something out of the time on board and felt like they were able to contribute to a broader, successful project.
Okay. And finally, what do you think is a vital quality of the next president of the QMU?
I think that doing this job, by the very nature of it, you're going to face setbacks. You're going to run into things that can't be changed as quick as you would like. And I think you have to be pretty determined to overcome those and keep a positive outlook on things. Like, it's an amazing, amazing role. There's nothing else you can do where you're given a budget of £1.5 million and a staff of 70. And you just have to realise how lucky you are and keep plugging away at overcoming any barriers that are thrown up in your path. I think determination is an important part of that.